I don't know how I'm going to structure this, but I feel like if I choose different segments of it, I don't know enough to be able to create an entire episode just off of that. So I think I'm just going to try and combine various aspects of this, and hopefully I give a holistic understanding of how this whole thing works. So thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Techo Tuesdays, Technology Tuesdays, where I try to tell you about some of the technology that exists out there, some that we use every day. Today, I'm going to talk about probably the most revolutionary technologies that we've had ever. It's amazing. I'm using it right now to be on your screen. That is how I got to capture myself, capture my thoughts. Well, not the audio part, but the visual part, to be able to share with people anywhere, at least on Earth, anywhere on Earth. And that's camera systems. Now, camera systems come a long way. Essentially, it's capturing light. Now, a little bit abstract to understand, but what we see is essentially a reflection of light. So when you see a human being there, that is the light reflecting off of their surface, their body surface. And because there's different wavelengths, radiations to their different parts of their skin and their clothes, they radiate different colors and we perceive it as different colors. Now our eyes, they only perceive the light that comes in. It is then our brains that come to create the image that we can then understand, figure out the depth of things, figure out the distance things are at, figure out the identity of things. And that is done now by our brains. What the camera does is essentially capture that piece of light, that array of light information that comes up, and it captures it in a moment in time. So you'll see a photo, like the stuff of the photos that we used to have, that we used to print out back in the ages. That was just the light that was coming in from that direction, which is where you and your father or your mother would be, and your little baby, and they're holding you in their hands, and you're looking all cute and chubby, and some of you looking ugly, but it is what it is. And that system normally just captures that moment. And back in the day, it used to take a long time to be able to capture that moment. You needed to expose the image to the lens for a long time, up to 30 seconds even. That you'd have to hold a pose for 30 seconds while the light is being absorbed by the lens, and then you'd be able to have a picture. But I'm talking many, many years ago, maybe more than 50 years ago, maybe even 100 years ago. And, we came to create moving pictures by having what we now call video. It was called moving pictures. So we'd be able to take many pictures at a time and then play them one after the other to create a sort of video, which was very grainy, very shaky, very pixely, very framey, because it was essentially just pictures. Even now, actually, the videos that we watch, the videos that we see, the videos that we take and record are actually still just pictures being taken, many pictures being taken one after the other. It's just that now our camera systems are able to do so very quickly that you cannot discern between the different frames that exist. That's why you'll see in some camera specifications, they'll talk about 30 FPS, 60 FPS. These are the frames that you can take per second. FPS means frames per second. That means that in 1 second, your camera system took 30 pictures, and then it plays those pictures to you back in that sequence that appears to you as one moving picture, but essentially it is many pictures that were taken consecutively and shown to you in a way that your brain interprets as a video. And of course, it becomes better if you go to 60 FPS, because now you're taking twice as many pictures as you would before. That twice as many pictures in a second. That means that your eyes really struggle to distinguish between the different pictures that are taken in between, in that period of time. So if you had like a 2 FPS camera, you'd be able to see that, nah, man, in that second, I feel like we jumped from one spot, one moment to another. It looks like you jumped from one moment to another because there was a part just within that half a second that you were not able to capture because your camera can only capture 2 frames per second. Now, of course, time moved on, we were able to take cameras from being these huge systems to being these small systems that we have, and they have a lens in there and the camera, and there's the mirrors that help with magnification and different effects that you want to have. And that was amazing, but it's still quite chunky and huge. And you use physics to actually be able to do that. You know how you can turn that lens thing around, and then you get the zoom in and the zoom out, and you get the apertures and all those things that camera people know that most people do not know, not even I know. And it was amazing. We were able to do that, and we just capture these pictures, but you need to capture them in a film. Now, the film is what allows you to capture that moment, that light array in that film, and then you're able to print it out onto paper, onto different kinds of paper. Of course, that was limited. The type of paper you could print it onto was quite limited. But then with the advent of digital cameras, we were able to now save these things digitally, save these images and these moving pictures digitally, and then we're able to get them into a memory card, put them into our computer, and print them out and record a video. Of course, you slap a microphone to the camera, and you can also record you can also record the audio, whether it's people talking, whatever sounds animals are making, or whatever sounds you want to record, and you're able to make that into a video or whatever it is that you want to make it into. Or can also take pictures with that. And then, of course, time moved forward, and we, because things are now digital, we're now able to incorporate cameras into cell phones and smartphones. And, life is amazing. We can now capture we can now capture pictures anytime, any day. I don't need to be a cameraman, because it was not really a lot of people who used to have cameras. Yeah, people had them, but it wasn't the same as that you'd find every single person with a camera the same way you do now. You find people with like 20 million cameras, because they're just so readily available, and they're in a package that also does many other things. So a camera just really did that. It just took pictures and videos. So not many people would have those. But then when it comes to now, where you have a phone, which you need use for calling, for communicating with the world, for searching stuff, learning, and whatever, it's helpful that you also have a camera on there. And of course, in the novel years of it, you could only have like 20 pictures, because it didn't have much memory to save it on. And I mean, these weren't massive pictures. These weren't pictures that used up a lot of data. I mean, the cameras back then were VGA, which I probably should have looked up what that means. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. But there were VGA cameras that we had on our phones, and they were not so great. They didn't really have great low light performance. They didn't really capture too many pixels. And the pictures were okay. I mean, even the screens of the day weren't the most amazing screens. So, we were able to live with them. And of course, time moves on. When we improve on these, the lenses become amazing and the screens become amazing. And you can't now be mediocre with your camera lens. And of course, as time goes on, we struggle to get the same effect that we used to get with DSLR cameras. Sorry, I simply forgot what DSLR stands for. I read it. I forgot what it stands for. I'm sorry about that. But essentially, the DSLR camera is the camera that allows you to put in those different mirrors to be able to take those different zoom pictures and have different focal points and all those things that artists and cameramen and camera women know about that, again, I don't know about, but they're important. They're amazing. So we struggle to get that into the smartphone system, because, okay, let me explain this. The camera on the smartphone, again, all it does is just capture the information that it gets. That's all it does. That's what it does. What then happens is, of course, it's able to capture the detail depending on the size of the lens. So the size and the exposure, as well as the number of pixels that it is able to look at. So if you have a 12 megapixel camera, that is a camera that can look at 12 million, if I'm not mistaken, 12 million pixels, which means within that frame, it has divided that frame into 12 million small boxes that it is looking at. Now, if you're looking at a picture that has 20 small boxes compared to a picture that has 1 million small boxes, the 20 million small boxes is going to take my eye and make it a box like that. And, all these things are just going to be blocks. But the one that has 1 million is going to be able to make smaller blocks, which allows you to see even each grain of the hair on my eyebrows. And that's the magic of having a higher pixel count. However, the higher pixel count in of itself does not create the images that you see. An example, for the longest time, iPhones have not had the highest pixel count in their camera systems. They haven't. For a long time, they've had 12. They've been operating with 12. What's made their camera system stand out, and of course, that's what makes every other camera system be what it is the software. So this is a hardware system, which is the lens, which mostly is created by Sony. A lot of phones out there use Sony-created camera lenses because Sony is just amazing at creating camera lenses. They use that, but then they have to take that and create software that is going to understand what you're trying to do when it looks at the image that you're taking. It can look at the skin color, it can look at the lighting, it can look at all these various things, the distance, and then it can make adjustments based on that information so as to give you a better picture, or what it believes you will consider to be a better picture. One thing that iPhone understood, well, actually one thing that all manufacturers understood, for some reason except for Sony. But anyway, one thing that a lot of phone manufacturers understood is that we don't know crap about pictures. We just want to have a picture that is lovely, and we don't know that, okay, we have to set this and have to set this and have to make the lighting, the brightness, the contrast, and all. We don't know that. We just want to snap my phone out, press the button, and take an amazing picture. Now the lens in of itself just carries that information, and then the software tweaks that information. It says, okay, there's some light behind what looks to be the structure of a human being. Let's reduce that light. Let us increase now the light on their face so that their face is more visible. And Apple is so good at that their pictures are almost perfect because, of course, they create their own software for specifically their phone. So the only outsider they have to deal with is essentially just the camera lens, but everything else, the processors, the GPUs, the whatever creates the graphics, all those are stuff that they control, and they build the software. So they're able to make the software for their camera be very compatible with whatever system it works in creating their image. And that's why their images have been so amazing, even when they've been using a smaller pixel camera. So it would be 12 megapixels, whereas other people have 40 megapixels, 48 megapixels, 108 megapixels. As much as other people have all those things, because they understand better, they are able to tweak and edit the picture better. And it's not like there's someone in there who's busy editing and whatever, but they've built the software that is able to do that. And that's how you have great images. And then now, perhaps some of you might be wondering, why then do we have some phones, or a lot of phones actually, having multiple camera lenses at the back? Like, why do I need 3 cameras? Are they actually better than one? Are they not? Now, in isolation, each of them may not be better than one because each of them actually replaces the one that you had before. However, they all serve a different function. So if you want to be taking a portrait image, the camera system uses a combination of, or just one of, the cameras in order to give you that effect that you're looking for, that you have the object, which is normally a human being, in front, and then you have the background that you want to blur out or want to show that the background is actually at a distance. Having 2 camera lenses allows you to do that. Whereas if you had just one camera lens, you'd have the software have to do a lot of work in order to make that effect visible, in order to make that effect better. But having 2 camera lenses allows one lens to focus on the object which is closer. So this will be a camera lens that actually looks at objects that are closer, and then allows the other camera to focus on objects that are further away. So it will be a camera setup that in of itself actually is created to focus on objects that are further away. Now combining those 2 allows you to have a good blurred background portrait image. Of course, there's other things like depth sensors. There's mono something. There is a mono. Why am I forgetting this stuff? But the camera lenses that you do have the main camera, which is the one that you pretty much always using. And then you do have the depth sensor, which allows, you to figure out the depth of things so that you can do the whole background thing better. You do have is it a monochrome? Monophoto? Mono something. Some cameras are better used when you're taking back black and white photos, or monochromatic. I'm not sure that's the word. But yeah, when you're taking black and white pictures, and then there's various reasons that you'd have multiple cameras. Different phones, different manufacturers use different camera lenses for different purposes. But the main purpose is to be able to have a whole range of use cases that you're able to do with one phone. Because of course we cannot take the whole DSLR system, which is massive, and fit it into a phone, because the phone still has to fit into your pocket, still has to fit into your life. It still has to be able to do all the other things that you do. You don't want to be going around carrying a camera. You just want to be going around carrying something that you can use as a camera. So we don't want to be putting in this whole big thing in your pocket. So that is why we say, okay, well, the next best thing we can do is to have several camera lenses that are then going to serve different purposes. So when you do this, let's have a camera that looks like this. That's the DLR system. When you do this and it zooms in, let's have a camera system that takes these kind of pictures. When you do this and you zoom out, let's have a camera system that's going to do this kind of images. When you try to take things black and white, when you're trying to do this and trying to whatever, all these type of things. There's also zoom cameras. I forgot what they're called, but they're able to take pictures from far away. So it's not the main camera normally that does that. There's a separate camera lens that does that. It's very good at that. So the mirrors in there are designed in a way that it allows for it to collect information, collect light from a larger distance than you normally would take. Now, of course, camera systems are used in many different things. I want us to think about this, right? If you think about a time when you're driving, whether it's at night or just not even driving, maybe you're walking somewhere. Mostly it happens at night, where you see a certain figurine in the distance, and you sort of assume it to be something. Maybe you think, that's a short man dressed in white, or what is he doing here in the middle of the night, right? And the closer you get, your perception of it starts to change. Okay, it's actually not a short man, it's actually just a tree. And then you realize, oh yeah, it's just a tree the whole time. What actually is happening is that your eyes, just like the camera, is just capturing the light that it is receiving. It is then the software, in terms of your eyes, the software is your brain, that interprets the stuff that your eyes receive. Your eyes in of themselves are useless. It is then your brain that interprets what it sees. So because your brain tries to take shortcuts and tries to make life easier for itself, when it sees some figurine, it tries to go to the quickest thing that it can think of. And if you're a paranoid person and you see what you see, which is that tree, which somehow looks shaped like a man, you're going to assume that that is a man. And it's not you assuming it because that's what you see. It is mainly because that is what your brain is interpreting to see. Now, I'm trying to bring this back into the technology space to say that when you have your camera out like this and there's someone's face in there, and sometimes your camera does this thing where it draws like a box over someone's face to show that it can detect someone's face. And sometimes they have this editing thing that makes your eyes big. I was surprised by the other day. I saw it, I was like, what the heck is this? And sometimes I saw my sister took a picture of me and my niece the other day, and my beard was all like uniform. It was like painted on, and I had no grains on my skin. Like all of it was all gone. But that is done by, it's not the camera system itself. It's not your eyes. It is the software. The software is what takes that and tries to make sense of it and sees, okay, that is the face of a person. Let me put a box around it so that is where I should focus. Because when the camera is out, chances are you want to take a picture of a person, a human being. So it's going to try to focus on that. When you're seeing something, because of your predisposition, you're going to think, okay, maybe that's a human being walking at night, but why are they walking in the middle of nowhere at night? And then you come closer and there's more light on it, and then you realize, oh no, it's actually just a tree. It's because your eyes, they don't really know what's happening. They just bring in the light. They just receive the light, and then the stuff in there, that's what now interprets it. Now, the challenge this brings, which is what I was trying to, I just kicked this net, which is what I was trying to get to, is that if you think about self-driving cars, they need to be able to, we say they need to be able to replace your eyes, but essentially what they need to do is to replace your brain. Because what the eyes do is essentially what camera lenses do, right? They just look around, they just receive the information of the light around you, okay? But then it is now the job of the software, the computer, to be able to interpret the stuff that happens up there. When you see a dog coming running into the road while you're driving towards the same direction, you predict that that dog is going to be here by the time I'm here, by the time I get there. This is not your eyes knowing this. This is your brain figuring that out. So you slow down. You're like, okay, no, I'm going to hit that dog. Let me just slow down. Now, of course, it can be a dog, can be a human being, can be another car. Then you slow down because you decided, because you were able to predict. And that is something that is done by the software, not the hardware. You're able to predict what might happen. And that is the difficulty that we're having with this whole self-driving thing. Full self-driving, FSD, becomes difficult not because of the hardware. It's because of the communication between the hardware and the software, the predictability of things. We're now at a point where AI is able to do some amazing things in terms of ChatGPT and giving answers and, large language models and all those kind of stuff. The main reason they're able to do that is because of their prediction ability. They're able to predict something. I know that was not technical. I'm sorry about that. I just don't want to say something that isn't properly correct. So Elon Musk once said that we are going to be able to solve full self-driving once we solve artificial intelligence. And his reason for that is because, again, it's not mainly the hardware that gives the issue. It is the software. Being able to predict what's going to happen. That is something that you are able to do because of the mind that you have. I was driving the one day and there was a bus right next to me and I was coming in this last lane. And then I noticed two pairs of feet running across, coming to at some point be coming out in front of the bus. And I'm driving out here. And I slowed down because I could predict that those feet, the owners of them, are just going to appear in front of me. They're not aware that I'm coming here. They probably don't see it. Again, their eyes are up there in their faces. Their feet are down here. But the bus is this high. They probably can't see this little car that I'm driving in. I was just able to see it because the car I was driving in is quite low and the bus is quite high. And I could see underneath it. If I was driving in something much higher, which is, again, more deadly for them, I probably would not have seen it. So because of my ability to predict that, I was able to slow down and they passed, like they literally just passed. I was like, had I not slowed down, I would have killed these people. And these are the sort of things that you need to solve when you're trying to create something that's self-driving. You need to be able to be better, even better than human beings, at predicting situations, at understanding and interpreting situations in which you find yourself, so that you're able to react safely towards them. Whether it's slowing down for a bicycle that seems to be coming on the road, whether it's stopping for a truck that has overturned on the road, which is something that Tesla has struggled to do one time at some point in history. It's just rammed right into it and it apparently assumed it was a billboard. Now, of course, a human being would have known that that is not a billboard. Billboards don't lie on the ground with wheels in the air. Of course, maybe from that direction, you could not see the wheels, but I'm just saying that a human being would have been able to notice that. And that is where the issue is. It's not that the cameras did not perceive that like they did, but the software did not interpret the situation properly. And then it did not predict what was going to happen properly, because it predicted that we're just going to drive underneath it. That's what always happens with billboards. They're up there, we drive underneath them. And it didn't work out. And by the time it noticed that, oh, flip, this is not a billboard, we are about to die, and it slammed on the brakes, it was just a little too late. And these are the things that are actually happening around us in terms of technology. It is mainly a software thing that we've been working on. The reason we have these amazing cameras, we're able to take these great videos with, it's not a very expensive phone. It's not an expensive phone at all, but I'm decently impressed with the quality of images that I'm able to get here. And I'm trying to say it's not really the lens itself that does this, but it is the software behind that tweaks things to be for you to be able to get the better quality video, picture, driving experience that you get. This was a episode about cameras and camera systems, and I hope that I made sense. Of course, like I said, each of these things I could talk about them each in isolation, but I don't know too much detail about each of them, so I don't want to like talk about them separately. Thought, okay, let me just talk about camera systems as a whole and with their wide range of uses in the world. Thank you so much for watching. This was very, very long. I will see you the next time I use the camera.